Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod. The Supreme Court weighing the president's authority on tariff policy. We hear from the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
If I thought that the executive was overstepping its bounds, I would have spoken up. Now, I do it in my way. I would do it behind the scenes with the president. We worked that out privately.
And how Johnson's Republican majority is weathering a government shutdown that goes on and on.
This really was, as some people say, the Seinfeld shutdown. It's a shutdown about nothing.
But the FAA announcing a shutdown-related cut to air traffic, as much as 10%. Dennis Tajer from the biggest union of airline pilots tells us the impact to aviation essentials working without pay.
Air traffic controllers, the TSA officers, they're part of my crew. Stop messing with my crew. Get this thing done so that we can get back to flying in clear skies.
What do we do if there was a nuclear bomb aimed toward an American city? The Netflix film A House of Dynamite explores that scary scenario. Screenwriter Noah Oppenheim on the fact-based premise.
We began building the story like you might actually report out a story for a newspaper or for a news outlet.
And director Kathryn Bigelow wants us to be thrilled, yes, but also think.
Do we need to be living in a house of dynamite? That's what the phrase refers to toward the end of the movie. We've built this world that is ready to blow at any second.
Plus, Nvidia CEO's warning about AI competition and travel headaches.
One very important key employee was able to make it back. He's here and he's looking well rested.
As the shutdown hits home.
They had the ice cream. You know the ice
cream?
In
Mamdami's, New York, you got to fly in the back of the plane. Guys like you.
It's Thursday, November 6th, 2025. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Andrew by in 3, 2, 1. Cue Andrew.
Good morning and welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We are live at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin, back from London, so it's no longer a transatlantic operation. Joe Kernan is here. Becky is off today, so it's just the boys. And Joe, I know we were talking about trains, planes, and automobiles. Yep. My plane made it in, but I know you've got some news here on
not a lot
what the FAA is
Well, not a lot of traffic.
About.
I mean, the Atlantic is pretty empty, isn't it? You sort of come up over it's very cold as you're flying over Greenland and Iceland,
right,
and et cetera. But I guess it could have, what LaGuardia or JFK?
LaGuardia internationally.
Okay, JFK.
JFK or Newark. In this case,
well, I'm asking you, JFK?
JFK.
You came into JFK.
JFK.
So that
Virgin Atlantic code share on Delta. Just to give you the full details, in case you were wondering.
I need more. Did you get a nice meal? Did you have one of those pods where you...
You know, they had...
Were you in the back of the plane? Don't divert.
No, they had the ice cream. You know the ice cream?
In Mamdami's, New York, you got to fly in the back of the plane.
You know, they
guys
those little
like
ice cream things that come in the cup?
I do.
And then you have to scoop it out. But it was so hard that I broke the spoon. That's how hard the ice cream was.
I'm searching when we're
What are you looking up over there?
When we're likely to hear on the tariff SCOTUS, because you're right, it could be sooner, but normally it could be all the way. I read that this morning. It's like, I can't wait till May or June to hear. And I'm also...
Oh, there's some talk that it could be 3 or 4 weeks from now.
I'm also hearing that the consensus that it is going to go against them isn't clear. But I know you're hearing it, but what they kept asking was, if he can cut off trade completely with another country, an embargo, how does it make sense?
That was the Gorsuch question.
And Kavanaugh and others. How can you not, and they used a 1% tariff. Right. How can you not levy a 1% tariff if you're allowed to do a whole embargo? It doesn't make any logical sense.
I don't know. I was reading a lot of the transcripts and things that people were writing about, and it looked like some of the quotes from Amy Barrett was very negative. I don't know if you thought that in terms of the way she was asking some of those questions. She did not seem
sometimes
like she
they
was
don't.
a fan
Sometimes
of the
they play
situation.
devil's advocate. We'll see. I think. And then the other thing is that the administration would just shift to something else. And whether
they can use 232.
Yeah, whether it actually gets dispersed back to come in, that's highly likely. Here's what's a typical timeline: 3 to 6 months. Analysts in this case expect a ruling not before early 2026, given the complexity and stake involved.
The other thing that was interesting, Neil Cattell, who is suing on behalf of the small businesses for this,
Right.
made an interesting argument when they were talking about remedies, about this idea of would you have to pay people back?
Right.
And is that too complicated? And he said you don't necessarily have to decide that. You could decide to do it only prospectively. So I think that they were trying to find ways to get there. And that's why I thought, at least from the questioning, again, unless you think it's all devil's advocate.
No, it definitely was sharply questioned. Do you want to hear I don't know whether we've run this through NBC News standards. I just think it's in our DNA to run things a certain way. But do you want to hear what we have to say about this? What the writers on this show have to say? I'm going to read it. Let me just.
You tell me what the writers have to say, and then I want to know what Kalshi and Polymarket have to say.
That's a good idea, because they were down.
So
while you they're in the 30s. Anyway.
While you read what the producers have to say, I will read
Right.
what the Polymarket Kalshi folks have
Because
to
it was
say.
at 30 even before yesterday that it's upheld. So you'll probably have that, and we like them now because they were right about everything in the election. You thought they weren't. I thought they were.
No, Bill Ackman said they weren't right, and so I thought all of a sudden that was an interesting point.
If Chitterelli was always 90-10 against, even though one of the polls, the Atlas Intel, had a 0.6 of a percent behind, and he lost by 13, which is what was the betting markets were saying. Okay, here we go. Supreme Court. I haven't read this. Supreme Court justices hearing arguments about the legality of aggressive tariffs imposed by President Trump. Both conservative and liberal judges sharply questioning the government's lawyer on the method used by the administration to enact the tariffs. Critics have argued that the levies infringe on Congress's power to tax. The Solicitor General, arguing for the government, called the president's tariffs regulatory, said that they, I'm not going to say the fact that because it's unnecessary, and that they raised revenue was only incidental. And that they raised was only incidental. The court planned 80 minutes of arguments. They went more than 2.5 hours. It's unclear when the court will rule, but the Trump administration has asked for a decision to be expedited. Some key retail names impacted by tariffs rallying yesterday.
I just want to say that I thought you read that very nicely and in a fair and balanced way.
I got rid of the fact that because it's, if you read any Mervyn.
Just because you are, such a grammatical.
No, it's not grammatical. It's just superfluous. It means absolutely nothing. And if you read Strunk and White or Mervyn Block or anyone like that, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Going forward, get rid of it, because at the end of the day, you'll be happy. Transportation Secretary, those are two of my worst things. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announcing the FAA will reduce flight capacity by 10% at 40 major airports starting tomorrow morning. What does that really mean? 3,500 flights? Would it change things that much in a low travel time?
I don't know, but I want to go back because I told you that I was going to give you the Kalshi numbers, and we're down at 25%.
25 that it's upheld.
25% that it's upheld. 75% that it is not, obviously.
I trust that more than anything else. Air traffic control has been working without pay since the government shut down on October 1st. The FAA administrator saying increasing staffing pressures are forcing the agency to act. It's unclear which airports will be affected, but we're likely to learn today. Secretary Duffy and the FAA chiefs say that they're meeting with airline executives on implementing the reductions, and experts predict hundreds or perhaps thousands of flights could be canceled, I guess cumulatively, because I think it's 3,500 a day or so. You got more on?
No, just giving you the numbers.
And what's the truth? What they can do it another way? It's just they just shift to.
There are ways that they can shift to, but they can't do it then permanently. And some of the rates, and it's not clear they could do it to every country. I mean, it becomes much more complicated.
You heard my question yesterday. Fentanyl. I don't like fentanyl. I guess more people have died from that than in all the wars combined, or some horrible number. So it is bad. Whether the trade imbalance suddenly became an emergency with every single country, blanket, France,
By the way, that was Amy's question. That's what she was saying.
That's a tough one. But
she said, how do you say we're having a problem with
because
France?
China and rare earth metals, that rises to the level of an emergency, I think, where you could say, look, everything, those things, it goes into everything, just about. It's almost like you could cause I don't know what it would hit, what the hit would be to GDP if we didn't get those metals for, let's say, 3 to 6 months.
Sure, but I think it's
around the world. There'd be a global
problem. But I think
problem.
it's very difficult to declare an emergency unless the rest of the world is also declaring the
They
emergency
might have
with you.
They might have on the rare earth.
Right, and then you would have done
metals.
that collectively, and then
Don't ask for collective acts. And now we're going back to what the coalition of the willing. We lead the world, my friend. And if you go to the UN, there's going to be 2 outlier countries that don't let you do anything. I mean, you can't say anything without
What about
Sudan.
how about just Congress? How about a coalition?
They might be worse.
How about a coalition of Congress, the voting representatives?
To do Fordo, would you have gone to Congress to be able to take out the nuclear facilities in Iran? You would have done that? You think you can possibly tell AOC you're going to do that and it's not going to?
Not necessarily, but that's a totally different scenario.
Well, you're just saying there are times when you can't go to Congress, Andrew, right?
Well, no, but this is now a wartime situation. The rare earths are not a wartime scenario.
Economic war. Some people call it the economic equivalent of a nuclear war. You know what we got to talk about later is the filibuster, because I'm very concerned.
Okay, we will put that on the list of
Do you know when it came
conversations.
about? 1917. It's not in the Constitution, but can you believe it's lasted that long? Because all you need is a simple majority in the Senate to get rid of it. And Manchin and Sinema,
Right.
heroic.
Heroic. So you should be holding steady.
I am, but you know why Trump is not holding steady? Because he knows next time Democrats get a majority.
Because he knows he's got 3 years to do what he's got to do
Right.
and wants to do, and he doesn't care
You know
after
what
that.
he said? He said, well, that's true. But also, he said, Democrats are going to do it anyway. They're going to stack the court. They're going to, anything you want to do, you can do anything you want. Climate change, gun control, with 51 votes. Can you imagine? Anything you can get rid of old laws.
Sure, and then that's
no bipartisanship.
So therefore, you should be, speaking out
except
boldly.
I see what he's saying in that they're going to do it anyway. So
why do you say they're going to do it anyway?
Because they tried to do it last time.
But invariably, maybe there will be a cinema if you're so happy about what she was doing, or a mansion.
Yeah, it looks like the party's moving that way towards the center. Welcome to New York. Doordash is lower today, sharply lower. Earnings missed expectations, down about 10%. Revenue is up 27% from a year ago. That was above expectations, and total orders were up 21%. However, guidance for the current quarter came in mostly below estimates, and the company said it plans to spend several $100 million on new initiatives and development in 2026. Commenting on the higher spending plans, the company said, "We wish there was a way to grow a baby into an adult without investment, or to see the baby grow into an adult overnight, but we do not believe this is how life or how business works." Can I just ask you one thing?
Please.
Is it possible that for the rest of the country and our viewers,
yes,
that we focus too much on what happened in New York with the mayoral race? Or is it so sort of transformational in terms of the national discourse with where the Democratic Party is headed, that it's fair game for us to continue to talk about it?
So I'm going to quote one of your comrades, one of yours.
We don't have comrades on my side of things.
I'm just saying.
Now you're getting confused. That's your side.
Ross Duluth,
yeah,
a conservative who writes for the New York Times, did an amazing piece in the past, I think, 24, 48 hours now, about how actually the attention that's given to mayoral candidates historically in New York is completely outsized, makes no sense, is based strictly on the fact that the media are in New York and we're all navel gazing, and that every candidate, I mean, he goes through it, every candidate that we described and talked about over the years as being sort of the next coming, people talked about it, never went anywhere.
Okay.
Bloomberg, people thought was going to be the next president. Giuliani was going to be the next president. Even when Eric Adams first got the job, this was going to be the change in the Democratic Party.
This is different this time.
This is different this time. So he actually made the argument effectively that New York mayors, this is the peak. We'll see whether he's right or not.
Maybe. We'll see. It's the center of capitalism, and this guy's a communist. So that's different this time. Navel gazing, I don't like that term. I don't want to look at my navel. I don't want to look at anyone's navel, to be honest. The fuzz, the little thing, it just, go ahead.
I don't want to think about
Well, why'd you say that?
I don't want to, because that's the phrase. That's the phrase.
Bad expression.
Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang sounding the alarm for the U.S. on artificial intelligence. He's now telling the Financial Times that China is going to win the AI race. In that interview, he highlighted a potential patchwork of state-based AI regulations in the U.S. He compared that with China, where energy subsidies are helping companies use local alternatives to Nvidia's chips, even though they are less energy efficient. He also told the FT that the West is being held back by cynicism. But shortly after that report was published, the CEO appeared to soften his stance. In a statement on Nvidia's X account, he said, quote, "As I have long said, China is nanoseconds behind America in AI. It's vital that America wins by racing ahead and winning developers worldwide." Those developments coming after President Trump told 60 Minutes last weekend that Nvidia's most advanced AI chips should be kept out of China. So that debate continues.
But it's very clear what he's doing.
Yes, playing both sides is what he's doing.
Playing both sides, but also saying, look, we're ahead now, but if you don't loosen up some of these state regulations, if you don't come on our side, which would help his business, but if we don't get with it, we're going to fall behind, is what he's saying.
Sure, but I think the biggest issue right now is I think he's not actually wrong, meaning there's stuff going, even though we are ahead, sort of, there's stuff going on there now because of actually how they're daisy chaining these chips together and how, frankly, inefficient the energy piece is, and they don't care because they're just subsidizing anyway, that they can basically replicate a lot of what we're already doing.
Even without the black
Bingo. And that's his argument.
Is he arguing that we might as well sell him Blackwell anyway, then?
Pretty much.
So
I think that's where he's going.
So it's all about his own situation then.
What else?
Because not everyone is like that, Andrew. Not everyone.
Oh, you're not.
Right.
Right. I know.
Look at how often I take risks for life, limb, and everything else, and employment.
Cheese will be next.
Coming up on Squawk Pod, it is day 37 of the longest government shutdown in history. How it's affecting our essential travel workers with pilot and pilot union spokesman Dennis Tajer.
While the negotiations may be righteous, we don't have time for that in my cockpit.
Plus, House Speaker Mike Johnson on the mounting pressure to get something, anything, done.
Mamdani is all the rage now, and the young communists are uprising, and that scares the old guard Democrats in Congress.
We're back. This is Squawk Pod, today with Joe Kernan and Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Stand by, Joe. Here's Mike. Cue.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced that he's going to reduce U.S. flights by 10% at 40 major airports starting Friday, impacting nearly 4,000 flights. Our next guest will give us a window into the government shutdown's impact on air travel. Captain Dennis Tajer, we've had on a lot, American Airlines pilot, more than 30 years of flight experience. He's a spokesman for the Allied Pilots Association, a union which represents 16,000 professional pilots. Good to see you. Dennis, what is 10% to the average person that's flying? What does that actually equate to? Do you notice that immediately?
Well, 10%, if it's your flight, it's 100% of your day and your plan.
Right.
So
Right.
It's just the numbers. And the bottom line is Secretary Duffy is repeated his sole role is to maintain the safety margin. So what we've seen are these rolling delays every day that has happened when they have staffing shortages. And the air traffic controllers, they're doing heroes work, but we're just asking too much of them. So they've Administrator Bedford, the FAA administrator, has said that they're starting to see reports coming in, even from pilots, about fatigue for the air traffic controllers. And this is the right thing to do. You're getting ahead of something before there's an incident or an accident. So Secretary Duffy is leading in this. We stand with him. Our president of our union stood with him and Vice President Vance, demanding an end to this shutdown. When it comes to the airlines, it's not a political debate. When it comes to safety and security, we've actually endorsed, along with 40,000 other pilots represented by other unions, the Teamster pilots, NetJets, to do the clean CR, vote for the clean CR. We need an immediate vector to clear skies and not a meandering path. While the negotiations may be righteous, we don't have time for that in my cockpit.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. There's nothing that mind-boggling about a clean CR. This should have never gone this far. Should have never happened in the first place, and it should end today. Take another vote, and people of good faith on the other side, on whatever side, it's only 5 Democrats, and you'd have it. And now this is where the rubber, well, it's not meeting the road, but this is where the issues are in the sky. Are we talking, Dennis, the airspace? Is it around what we would think of are the most busy airports? Is that where we're really concerned? New York and Chicago and Los Angeles and Dallas? Is that where we need to be concerned?
Well, we need to be concerned across every airspace. Like I said before, if it's on your airplane and there's a safety margin invasion, we're going to protect that. And that's going to happen. The airspace is going to remain safe and secure, but you need to adapt to it. And what Secretary Duffy is doing prior to this announcement is reducing the amount of traffic coming in. And that's just the right thing to do, because above all else, we've got to keep the system safe and secure. And I want to add a little nuance into this. Right now, airlines, we model for Mother Nature, but we don't model for government nature. And when we staff the airline for pilots, reserve pilots are there in case there's disruption or delays and a pilot times out, which is starting to happen. We fly full schedules. The FAA has limits on how long we can fly during the day for safety reasons. Pilots time out, you bring in a reserve. They're already starting to use the reserve pilots that were planned to be available for that important Thanksgiving season. So we're already nibbling on the Thanksgiving turkey. And frankly, when it comes to operations, that's just a mess, and it's got to stop.
So the delays that we're talking about, and just the whole notion of things gumming up the works because of what's happening, that puts strain on pilots that are waiting to perhaps have to step in, because there's many more delays and they're waiting much longer. So it's not just the air traffic controller.
Yeah, pilots time out. I was out flying. Our pilots fly 12-hour days. You got about an hour and a half to play with, maybe 2 hours. You get a delay in there, you time out. You're not legal to fly. So, the areas, it's just like if you had 2 guests at the same time on your program talking about 2 different subjects, there's no way you could get it done. So our air traffic controllers have stepped it up. They're coming to work. They're not getting paid. They're human beings. If I had a crew member that said, hey, I just got done with an Uber shift and I was down at the food pantry getting things squared away, had an argument with my spouse because we don't have the money to pay for our family's needs. Hey, let's go fly. I would say, hang on a minute. Is your head in the game? You're trying, but you're a human being. And that's what Secretary Duffy is going to avoid. And we stand with him. We're not picking the political sides in this. You can't bring your fight into my cockpit. My airplane has nothing to do with this righteous and noble fight that you're having outside. But if this was happening outside the airplane, I wouldn't allow you to board my airplane because you'd be distracting my crew. And the air traffic controllers, the TSA officers, they're part of my crew. Stop messing with my crew. Get this thing done so that we can get back to flying in clear skies.
All right. Well, we're talking to Speaker Johnson later. We'll pass along some of your comments, maybe, Captain. Thank you. It's good to have you on this morning. We've mentioned it before. It's day 37, in case you weren't keeping up, of the government shutdown. Joining us now, House Speaker Mike Johnson. Mr. Speaker, it's good to have you on this morning.
Good morning. Not a great day in America because of the shutdown, but I'm always happy to be with you.
And happy to be with you as well. We had Senator Britt on a little bit earlier talking about some of the efforts from that chamber.
I realized you can't break a log jam without having conversation. And so sitting down with Senator Schumer and talking about that we really need to get back to doing the work of the American people.
I know you're willing to talk and try to get this thing ended, but it's really up to the Senate. What do you think of these ideas of a couple of the appropriations bills that have already passed? You could put it on the clean CR. That was her idea, but I don't think there was an Obamacare subsidy extension being talked about. Would that induce any Democrats to cross over that finally and vote for the CR, those other appropriations?
Well, my dear friend Senator Britt and others are doing a great job over there. The Republicans are working hard with a handful of moderate centrist Democrats who are left, who understand the pain that's being inflicted on the American people, and they want a way out of this. The Democrats have painted themselves into a corner, Joe, as we've discussed before, because this really was, as some people say, the Seinfeld shutdown. It's a shutdown about nothing. There was no fight. There was no skirmish between the parties. When we passed back on September 19th, the clean continuing resolution, it was nonpartisan. You know, it's 24 pages in length, bare bones, just to keep the lights on. And this is an important point. The whole reason for that is because the Republicans and the Democrats, who were appropriators, got together and said, we're running out of time to do the normal process, the regular order of funding the government. We need about 7 more weeks. So let's just extend it to November 21, and we'll all get our work done. That was the agreement they made, bipartisan and bicameral. But then Chuck Schumer decided to throw a big wrench in the middle of the machine because he wanted to show a fight against President Trump because he needs political cover against the rising radicals in his party. I mean, that's pure and simple what this is about. So it never really was about any particular issue. It was about the Democrats trying to show a fight. And now they've gotten themselves into the longest shutdown in U.S. history, and it's serious business for serious people.
Do you think, Mr. Speaker, and let's take some Democrats at face value with what they say. They say that they're really concerned about the expiration of the Obamacare pandemic subsidies. And that you know, if they knew for sure that Republicans would negotiate in good faith after they reopen the government, that if they had assurances even from President Trump, they would do it. That's only about $40 billion. Why do we keep hearing $1.5 trillion? And you know, why would you use the leverage, which Democrats have, because you need a supermajority? Why would you use it to put all that other stuff in there if all you really wanted was you know, a way to get a year's worth of these subsidies? That's only $40 billion. Would you have agreed? Would Republicans have agreed to that, or not? Not even that would have been okay with Republicans.
Well, what you're highlighting there is the entire point of this. When we say it's a shutdown about nothing, if you polled 100 Democrats between the House and Senate, you get 100 different answers about what this is about. That's the thing. It never was about one particular policy or argument or discussion. We all knew that the COVID-era Obamacare subsidy was going to lapse at the end of December. That is the expiration date that the Democrats themselves put on it when they created that big subsidy, okay? We knew that we were going to have to debate and arm wrestle about that through October, November, December. That was always on the calendar. Everybody in the building knew that in both parties. They tried to glob onto that and make that the issue of the day because they think that sells with voters, okay? Yes, the appropriations process is going forward. Yes, we're going to have to talk about health care and sort all that out. But when we say the $1.5 trillion, that is the actual counter offer that they put on paper and filed in the Senate. It is still sitting over there as their counter proposal. $1.5 trillion in new spending on a 7-week stopgap funding measure. I mean, it's just madness. And included in that, yes, go read the bill. They want almost $200 billion to be returned to health care benefits for illegal aliens. They want to send all these billions of dollars back over to foreign countries for social spending in other countries. They wanted to restore $500 million to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. All these things. And in that proposal, amazingly, shockingly to us, they put it on paper. They want to repeal the $50 billion rural hospital fund that Republicans worked so hard to get signed into law July 4th. So it's just a mishmash of priorities and things that different Democrats are claiming. That illustrates the very point. This was never about one particular issue. They just wanted to show a fight. They wanted to look tough to the Marxist rise in their party. And remember this, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are both New Yorkers, right? We all just saw what happened in New York City. Mamdani is all the rage now, and the young communists are uprising, and that scares the old guard Democrats in Congress. And so they were afraid they'd get a challenge from a Mamdani disciple in their next election cycle.
Mr. Speaker,
that, Joe, that is what all this is about.
You've explained it on this show. I've seen you everywhere, and Senator Thune, everybody else. To this day, though, a lot of the stuff that I get pushed back on Johnson, they're trying to cut Medicaid. Most people in the country do not know it's about a clean resolution. They think that in this bill that Democrats will not vote for, they think that Republicans are cutting Medicaid and taking away Obamacare from people. So that somehow that has not reached most people at this point. And you saw the results of the election the other night. Now, they were blue states, no doubt. But in New Jersey, it was a much bigger margin than people thought that Ciattarelli lost by. Virginia, even the attorney general, even that guy was able to get in. So something about the shutdown is not getting out from Republicans, because the narrative from the left is that you're meanies, they're going to take health care away.
Well, they're suggesting that's going to happen later, not necessarily as part of this, but they're trying to use the
No, it's not going to happen. No,
it's a clean CR.
There's a lot of false narratives. It is a clean CR. It is exactly what they had already voted for. And literally, Chuck Schumer led the 10 Democrats in the Senate to vote for this same product back in March. But that's when he took all the abuse from the radical left. And he made a decision back then, I don't care what, I'm never going to do the right thing again. I'm not going to keep the government open. I'll go down on that hill, because he knows his career's over if he doesn't. I mean, really, that's what this is about. Right. The clean CR, guys, is Biden-era policies and spending. It's not Republican priorities. We don't even like this stuff. But we were trying to operate in good faith to keep the lights on. There's so many false narratives about this. Yes, I'm not surprised that people are misled, because the entire mainstream media is out every day parroting the talking points of Chuck Schumer. I have to go do a press conference every morning just to try to put the truth out there, the simple truth that is not changing. It sounds repetitive to us,
not from
but that's what it
6 to
takes to
9
try
here,
to saturate.
Not from 6 to 9 here, Mr. Speaker. We're not parroting this.
I know.
Mr. Speaker,
I know you're not. That's why I appreciate your show.
Well, come on. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something different, which is just a comment on what we heard yesterday in the Supreme Court, because a number of the justices, including conservative ones, Justice Gorsuch and others, raising questions to the Trump administration about the tariffs, and specifically asked at one point whether there were any guardrails that would prevent Congress from, quote, just abdicating all responsibility to regulate foreign commerce, for that matter, declare war to the president, effectively asking whether the president has too much power and whether Congress is effectively abdicating its power in this context.
Yes. Look, I followed it as much as I could in a busy day yesterday. That was what I used to do. I was a constitutional law litigator. I had lots of those oral arguments. I would not read too much into the justices' questions. I mean, that's kind of part of the process. It's to be expected. Vigorous judicial review is what you expect at the Supreme Court. And so they ask probing questions, and it's almost never indicative of how they'll come out in the end. I'm cheering for the president that the executive will win on this. Now, I say that as a jealous guardian of the legislative branch of government, Article 1. There's a reason we're listed first in the Constitution. This is supposed to be the place of greatest importance. We're the ones that are supposed to make the law and the policy. But we do give the executive traditionally a lot of leeway, a lot of discretion over international trade. And we had a serious problem in this country for decades. As you all know, and you've discussed many times, we had a big trade disparity. The president stepped in. I think he's used that authority appropriately. He's obviously created a lot of leverage for our trade strategy internationally, and it's yielded great results. And so I'm watching that carefully, because I'm the guardian of the Article 1 branch of government. But I think he's well within the lines, and I hope that a majority of the justices agree, because if they reverse all this, it would really be chaos in the markets and in the economy. It'd be a real problem for the country.
And that's a point that Justice Amy Coney Barrett actually asked about yesterday during the case, about what kind of, quote, mess this could create. But let me ask you a question that she also asked of the Trump administration. She said this is about effectively the law they're using to do this currently, that was put in place in 1977 by Congress. You're asking us to read, quote, regulate importation, which is the phrase in that law, as a blank check. If that's what Congress meant, why didn't it say so? What do you think?
Well, I think Amy's a brilliant jurist, and I've known her since high school back in Louisiana, and I'm not surprised she asked good questions. I think the response there was appropriate. I didn't hear all the oral argument, but I know what the analysis and the rationale of the White House is, and they believe they're using the appropriate authority under the law. I do as well. And I would tell you, I mean, Andrew, if I thought that the executive was overstepping its bounds, I would have spoken up. Now, I do it in my way. I would do it behind the scenes with the president. We work that out privately, not in a public dispute. But I really do think they're within the bounds, and I'd love to talk to my old friend Amy about that and try to sell her on my view. I wish I could have argued that case. I would have enjoyed that one.
Mr. Speaker, this has got me thinking all kinds of different things, and a lot of the scenarios are quite horrific. And I'm talking about the filibuster, and the senators are pushing back on what the president wants to do there. But then I think about it, and he is right about one thing. If the Democrats have a majority without Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, they will get rid of the filibuster. And that would open up the floodgates for God knows what. Gun control with 51 votes for gun control, for climate change, for whatever. So it seems like it has nothing to do with tariffs right now. But it seems like an absolutely horrific outcome if it were to happen. Is it going to survive? It seems like its days are numbered. It's been around since 1917. Do you think it should survive? Or because the president's pushing for Republicans to end it?
Well, I'm delighted that of all the things I have to say my prayers about in the morning, it ain't the filibuster, because that's a Senate thing, not a House thing. But I'll tell you what our Senate Republican colleagues say. Some of the most conservative, some of the most thoughtful people is that they jealously guard that as a speed bump, right? Because you're right. If the Democrats were ever able to govern with unified government, White House, Senate, and House, without the filibuster, you would get the Supreme Court would be packed with 13 or 15 justices. They'd make, Puerto Rico, D.C. states. You're right. Second Amendment would be infringed immediately. You'd have all sorts of chaos. They'd nationalize the elections, abortion on demand, just go down the list. So the filibuster has been a very important safeguard, a bulwark against the Democrats' worst impulses. The big question is, and you're right, the president's convinced the Democrats would do it next time if they ever had the opportunity. I'm a little more skeptical about that. I mean, this is my view. It doesn't matter. I don't get a vote on this. But when Manchin and Sinema held them back last time, I believe, I'm told, and I believe it's true, that there was a group of moderate Democrats who voted yes and prayed no. In other words, they let Sinema and Manchin take the arrows and be the sacrificial lambs because they wanted to look tough to the base. But they certainly prayed that it would not be the case because they're afraid what we would do without any speed bumps, So, I mean, it's been an important part of the institution. That's what the Senate, the Republicans and the Democrat senators have argued in the past. And the founders, when they set up the Constitution, remember, they wanted the Senate to be the cooling saucer. That's how it was described, right? The House would be hot and emotional and everything would fly over there, and then it would rest and they would have deliberate debate, very thoughtful conversation, more time would go by, and that would prevent our worst impulses. I'll just say this last thought. If the filibuster's gone, and maybe its time has come, they have to decide that, but if it's gone, you're going to have massive whiplash after every election, every presidential election. Anytime a new team comes in, it would be a lot of instability, and I don't think that's great for the markets or the economy or anything else.
Mr. Speaker, before we let you go, there's a story we've been talking about all morning. Wanted to get your thoughts on it. Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang was quoted in the Financial Times this morning saying that China will win the AI race. He was effectively making the argument that some of Nvidia's most advanced chips effectively should be sold in China. Otherwise, they're going to run away with it, given some of the things they're already doing. He's since softened some of those comments online. But how do you think about whether Nvidia and some of the American companies making the most advanced chips should be exporting those chips to China?
Well, we think about this race with China every day, constantly. They're trying to become a peer-to-peer adversary to us, and they have been on that journey for a while now. We're still the world's great superpower for a lot of reasons, but we cannot lose the AI race, and it's very serious. It has massive implications, most importantly for national security. And so I hope he's wrong in that analysis. I know he's got a business angle, and I respect his work and what he's doing, and I want them to be successful, obviously. But I think China is an adversary and not an ally. And I think they're playing a long game, and we have to take that very seriously. We have to keep our edge into AI. The last time I checked with my tech gurus and the Silicon Valley leaders out there, they think we're still months ahead, maybe many months ahead of China on the advancement, but that can change, right? So we've got to do what is necessary to keep our edge because a lot is riding on that.
Speaker Johnson, wow, exactly 8:25. We got to hit the hard break like you can't believe for you, and we're going to do it. We're going to make it before then. Thank you so much. Great to have you on.
Still to come on Squawk Pod.
It'll scare you. It'll scare the bejesus out of you.
The Netflix film A House of Dynamite offers a fictional take on a nuclear attack grounded in real life. Filmmaker Kathryn Bigelow joins us next.
It started as a kind of what-if question. What would happen if there was a nuclear ICBM headed toward North America? What happens in the halls of power? What's the chain of command? What's the protocol?
You're listening to Squawk Pod from CNBC.
These are the circumstances. In little more than 7 minutes, we will lose the city of Chicago. I can't tell you why.
Up and Andrew, Q.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. We've been talking about this show on Netflix for quite some time, the past couple weeks, Joe and I. House of Dynamite paints a picture of What could happen if the U.S. faces a rogue nuclear missile? Joining us, the movie's director. This is big time. Kathryn Bigelow is with us, and writer Noah Oppenheim. Good morning to both of you. It's nice to see you. Good morning. Congratulations on the film. I've now watched it twice. And it keeps you on the edge of your seat. We've been talking about the show, the film, I should say, a whole bunch the past couple of weeks because it'll scare you. I mean, it'll scare the bejesus out of you.
And all of her stuff. And Hurt Locker, Jeremy Renner's
all
back
of it.
with another
Zero Dark 30, all of it.
Right.
So I want to just go back in time before we even get into it itself. How did you decide you were doing this? Where did the original idea come from? And what were you trying to say about where we are in our society and in the world at this point?
Well, actually, it started as a kind of what-if question. What would happen if there was a nuclear ICBM headed toward North America? What happens in the halls of power? What happens, what's the chain of command? Like, what's the protocol? And so I was lucky enough to be able to have a conversation with this gentleman here, Noah Oppenheim, and he spun out this incredible scenario, and I said, wait, hold it, let's write a script about that and let's make it. And it was very fast. From that conversation to finished script was very fast.
Noah, how much did you know before you started researching this? And how were you surprised? Were you more scared at the end?
I was definitely more scared. I knew some, but one of the many things that make Kathryn such an extraordinary filmmaker is her commitment to realism and authenticity and an almost journalistic approach to filmmaking. So from that initial conversation, we began building the story like you might actually report out a story for a newspaper or for a news outlet. And we just called the folks who had actually worked in these rooms, people who had served at the highest levels of the Pentagon, the White House, and said to them, hey, if this ever were to happen, how does it work? What do you do? What are the steps that get followed? And at the end of every conversation, we'd say, who else should we talk to? And so we kind of built it from the ground up. And yes, we were both terrified increasingly as we had those conversations, terrified by how short a period of time decision makers would have, terrified by the fact that the president has the sole authority to make the call and has probably never rehearsed for it before. So yeah, it definitely kept us up at night, I think.
How much debate was there among folks you talked to in the sort of defense complex? I know that there's some folks at the Pentagon who have tried to suggest since the film came out that, we'd be able to, that the film would end much earlier than it does, if you will, because there wouldn't be the prospect that these nuclear, missiles would be coming towards us and we'd be able to actually hit it. How much of a debate was there as you were writing the script?
On that point, there was very little debate. I mean, the statistics are actually in the public domain in terms of the Pentagon's testing of our missile defense system. And the statistic in the movie, which is 61%, is fairly accurate in terms of the testing record over the last 25 years. They've gotten better. It's possible you could knock a missile out of the sky. It's just very hard, and the odds aren't terrific. But they're working to improve it. And I think the debate we wanted to open was, do we need to build better missile defense? Right. Or do we need to reduce the number of weapons in the world?
Is that the moral of the
what's the best way to get us safer?
Is that the moral of the story? Golden Dome, like an upgraded Iron Dome that Israel has? Is that what the moral of the story is? I don't know.
I think we reduce the nuclear stockpile. That's the moral of the story.
Well, you only need one, though. I mean, there's thousands.
I know.
I mean, I don't. It only needs one out of. How many does Russia have? Russia has thousands. We have thousands.
Yeah.
We're not going to zero.
12,000.
Yeah, we're not going to zero.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of levers you can pull, right? I mean, the last remaining arms control treaty we have with Russia, New START, is set to expire at the end of the year. That negotiation or renegotiation is starting. So reducing the stockpile is one lever. Iron Dome is a much easier problem. Those missiles are moving lower, slower, and Israel's a smaller area to defend. But it's worth discussing, and that's why I think Kathryn wanted to make the movie.
It used to be SALT tax actually meant something instead of state and local taxes. They stole that. They stole that.
So Kathryn, there's a movie theater in the White House. I think you can also watch films on Air Force One. If the president were to watch this film, what would you want him to take away from it?
Oh, well, again, reduction to denuclearize the world, but at the very least, a conversation about it. Do we need to be living in a house of dynamite? That's what the phrase refers to toward the end of the movie, where we've built this world that is ready to blow at any second. So it's a very combustible environment. And the movie ends really with a question: do you want to live in this world with that degree of combustibility? I mean, I know how I feel.
Well, I know, but we wouldn't unilaterally disarm, right? And it looks like we're ramping things up. We're not ramping things down. That's the discussion now. If we start testing, Putin just yesterday said, if you're going to start doing it, we're going to start doing it. But it's always been about that anachronistic idea of MAD, mutually assured destruction, and we couldn't do it unilaterally, right?
Exactly. But
yeah.
Obviously you'd have to.
We have done it before, though, Joe. I mean, the thing to keep in mind is however many thousands of weapons we have now, we had a lot more during the Cold War. And we've seen the global powers get together and reduce those number of weapons. Right. We've seen countries give up their arsenal. I mean, South Africa, apartheid South Africa gave up their nuclear arsenal. So it's not an impossible dream to try to, reverse the trend here.
But in this case, it's not even Russia or China, from what I can tell. I haven't seen it yet. But if it's you don't know, once again, you only need one. It doesn't even have to be.
So I have a creative question for Kathryn Noah, without trying to give away the ending. But I'm not going to give away the ending, I promise.
Does the world live?
Well, there's a question about that, and I want to know sort of how you were thinking about the ending of this film. If you can somehow describe how you thought about it without giving away the ending. I know this is like a needle to thread that's very hard.
That's a little bit difficult, but I think the way to talk about it is really that the movie ends with a question, and questions are kind of messy and ambiguous, but it's really up to the audience to answer it. So I give it to you, Andrew, to tell me how it ends.
Well, I will tell you this: it forces you to think a lot and to feel something, which is one of the great signs of a great film.
It ended with Rosebud. That makes no.
No.
It did not end with.
Kathryn, Noah, we want to thank you. It is a great film.
Thank you.
I encourage people to watch it. It does make you think a lot, Joe. And you're always looking for something good to watch on Netflix. This is it.
I'm looking for something good to watch, not something that I can never sleep again. No, I'm gonna watch. I love Hurt Locker. Jeremy, I loved it. Zero Dark
30. Yeah,
love them both. It's riveting, and this is the same, I guess.
Yes, it is.
That's Squawk Pod for today. Thanks for listening. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernan, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern for all the news, economic and political headlines you can't miss.
I'm going to quote one of your comrades.
We don't have comrades on my side of things.
Or follow Squawk Pod for the best of our show in an easy-to-listen-to podcast. Take it with you on the go. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you like to listen. That's it. We'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.